American psychologist B.F. Skinner proposed that language acquisition is a process learned through operant conditioning, or learning via rewards and punishment. For example, a baby or a child would utter something and the caregiver responds. Positive reinforcement, such as praise, getting the desired object, for example, encourages repetition. This suggests that children will mimic the caregiver's behaviorism. The nativist theory, proposed by American linguist Noam Chomsky, is a theory that proposes acquisition of language is an innate ability among children. Chomsky argued that all human languages share the same structural framework. He proposes that children are born with this blueprint already encoded in their brains. That idea that Chomsky proposed is something called the universal grammar. Chomsky also theorized that children have this ability called LAD, or Language Acquisition Device. LAD is a theoretical brain mechanism that takes surrounding speech input, say for example the caregivers or the parents or children around them, and extracts the underlying structural rules. This allows the child to generate grammatically correct output. This is why some children or even adults say imaginate. This is because they see words like contamination become contaminate. They apply the same rules to imagination, for example. They take away the ate suffix and add it to imagination, which becomes imaginate, even though we know that imaginate is not a real word. Another example is, let's say a kid says, I ride my bike. Now, the past tense for ride is rode. I rode my bike. However, children take the structural framework of past tense, which is adding the suffix ed to ride. That's why they say ride it. The cognitive theory, theorized by Jean Piaget, is a theory that argues that language is not an isolated capacity. This is contradictory to Noam Chomsky's theory. However, it argues that language is a direct byproduct of a child's overall cognitive development. So, for example, a child cannot express a concept linguistically until they understand it conceptually. For example, object permanence. Object permanence is the realization that objects continue to exist even when out of sight. Now, this realization occurs when a baby is in its 8 to 12 month stage. Now, during those stages, it is also when babies are already starting to utter words for giving name to objects and people. Now, the interactionist theory, theorized by Jerome Bruner, this theory suggests that children may have an innate capacity for language. However, it needs environmental stimuli, or in this case, interactions with other children and caregivers. Now, Bruner proposes something called LASS, or Language Acquisition Support System. This is Bruner's direct answer to Chomsky's LAD. The LASS represents the social infrastructure, parents, caregivers, and environment that supports early speech. Now, the analogy for LASS, or the support system, is like a scaffolding. Caregivers will support a child's language development by structuring conversations, for example, offering prompts, and then slowly removing support as the child gains autonomy. Those are the theories that I can give today. Thank you for watching.